meddled with the primal forces of nature, Mr. Beale, and I won't have it. Is that clear? You think you merely stopped a business deal? That is not the case. The Arabs have taken billions of dollars out of this country, and now they must put it back. It is ebb and flow, tidal gravity. It is ecological balance. You are an old man who thinks in terms of nations and peoples. There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West. There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars. Petrodollars, electrodollars, multi-dollars, Reichmarks, rins, rubles, pounds, and shekels.
Listen, we need to have a talk about Vanderhoff. The fact is, he's the sponsor. And you signed a contract guaranteeing him certain concessions, one of them being a spot on the show.
Well, that's where I see things just a little differently. Contract or no, I will not bow to any sponsor.
Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Donald Trump. We're all cut from the same cloth, and that cloth is very, very large.
It's not too big, is it?
No.
Why do New Yorkers have such big mouths?
Go big or go home.
Because they eat big pizza like the big New Yorker from Pizza Hut. We're talking 40% bigger. Soft, fresh dough with all your favorite toppings. Now from just $9.95.
You've got to be losing money on this.
131166.
Pizza Hut!
Sorry you feel that way, but basically it's the nature of the beast.
Maybe I'm wrong on this one, but for me, the beast doesn't include selling out. Garth, you know what I'm talking about, right?
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
I can't talk about it anymore. It's giving me a headache.
Here, take 2 of these.
Ah, new print. Little, yellow, different.
Look, you can stay here in the big leagues and play by the rules, or you can go back to the farm club in Aurora. It's your choice.
Yes, and it's the choice of a new generation.
Israel and Hamas could be on the brink of a ceasefire and hostage release deal. A live look over Qatar tonight, where negotiators are working to finalize a long-anticipated agreement. Hamas is expected to release 33 hostages during the first phase. Now, that is in exchange for a 42-day ceasefire and an undisclosed number of Palestinian prisoners. The bodies of dead hostages are tragically expected to be among those released.
I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire.
Peace and security.
The lesson of history is that peace and security do not come easily.
Peace and stability that people on all sides long for.
2 states for 2 peoples living side by side in peace and security is not a fake slogan.
Your new empire? Don't make me kill you. Anakin, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy! If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
Either you're with us, either you love freedom and with nations which embrace freedom, or you're with the enemy.
New world order.
A new world order.
A new world order. New world order. New world order.
A new world order.
A new world order.
New world order.
New world order. And a new world order.
This morning, Simon Phoenix escaped from this cryo facility. We've had 11 murder-death kills so far. You see, we have become a society of peace, loving, and understanding, and we are, quite frankly, not equipped to deal with this situation.
There have been no deaths of unnatural causes in San Angeles in the last 16 years.
The Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, San Diego Metroplex were merged in 2011. You are in the center of what used to be Los Angeles.
That's great. You, give me a Marlboro.
Yes, of course, right away. What's a Marlboro?
Just cigarette, any cigarette.
Smoking is not good for you, and has been deemed that anything not good for you is bad, hence illegal. alcohol, caffeine, contact sports, meat.
What the hell is that?
John Spartan, you are fined 1 credit.
Bad language, chocolate, gasoline, uneducational toys, and anything spicy. Abortion is also illegal, but then again, so is pregnancy if you don't have a license.
Caveman, let's finish with all the Rip Van Winkle and get moving. Mr. Phoenix has risen from the ashes.
The phoenix is a legendary bird made up of fire which found in various mythologies. The phoenix is often described as a large, magnificent bird with vibrant and radiant plumage. Phoenix is a unique mythological bird because when it nears its death, the bird constructs a nest and then ignites it, allowing the flames to consume both the nest and itself. From the ashes, a new phoenix arises. In Greek mythology, the phoenix was associated with the sun god, Helios. It was believed that the bird lived in Arabia and would come to Egypt every 500 years. In Egyptian mythology, it is known as the Bennu bird, and also linked to the sun god Ra. In Chinese mythology, the Feng Huang is a bird that shares some similarities with the phoenix. In Persian mythology, it is known as the Simurgh or Senmurv. This bird has a history of more than 1,000 years and is a symbol of purity, immorality, and luck.
The Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris got a new rooster. It's the copper weather vane that sits atop the spire. The original was damaged in the fire that gutted the cathedral in April of 2019. We all remember that. This rooster has been reimagined as a phoenix with flaming feathers, a symbol of the landmark's restoration and recovery.
There's no in-between. You're either with us or you're with the enemy. That's clear. I will continue to make that clear.
A new world order.
New world order. New world order.
New world order.
A new world order. Need for a new world order.
A new world order.
Hundreds of Israeli citizens here, including hostage family members, in the streets tonight, blocking the main entrance there to Jerusalem, protesting the deal, arguing it doesn't go far enough. President Biden today announcing his support for the deal.
Palestinian people deserve peace and the right to determine their own futures. Israel deserves peace and real security. And the hostages and their families deserve to be reunited. And so we're working urgently to close this deal.
Israeli officials say they are prepared to quickly implement that agreement if signed off on. Members of the incoming Trump administration have also been ramping up pressure here to both parties to get a deal done.
I know this is going to burst some of your bubbles here, but like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But my question to you, supposed Christian Zionist supporters out there is, especially the ones that, you know, they expose Freemasonry, they expose how bad it is, and they expose who is the real god of Freemasonry and everything like that, and how the 33rd, 32nd, 31, and 30th degrees know what they worship. And yet these people that are high Masons are put in countries and leadership in countries and everything like that. But when it comes to the state of Israel, I guess it's okay. See, here's the thing. You can't compromise on anything. 99%, and I say 99% because the 1% actually believe that everything in this current age is a counterfeit, okay? So, and I believe the current state of Israel is a counterfeit. The current state of Jerusalem is a counterfeit of what is to come. Guess what? He's a 33rd degree Freemason. And they all worship the same God.
Mr. Stark, could we pick up now where we left off? Mr. Stark, please.
Yes, dear.
Could I have your attention?
Absolutely.
Do you or do you not possess a specialized weapon?
I do not.
You do not?
I do not. Well, it depends on how you define the word weapon.
The Iron Man weapon.
My device does not fit that description.
How would you describe it?
I would describe it by defining it as what it is, Senator.
As?
It's a high-tech prosthesis. That's actually the most apt description I could make of it.
It's a weapon. It's a weapon, Mr. Stark. I hate
Please,
to inform
if your
you.
priority was actually the well-being,
my priority
of the
is to get the Iron Man
citizen,
weapon turned over to the people of the United States of America.
Well, you can forget it. I am Iron Man. The suit and I are one. To turn over the Iron Man suit would be to turn over myself, which is tantamount to indentured servitude or prostitution, depending on what state you're in. You can't have it.
Look, I'm no expert.
In prostitution, of course not. You're a senator. Come on.
But a real necessity for the stability in the entire region.
Israel and Palestinians, they can live side by side in peace and security. This is our vision, and this is our commitment.
Of a new deal, peace and security and friendship.
My hopes and dreams for Israel are to live in peace.
Okay, let's pick teams. I'll be a captain, and Mayor West, you can be a captain.
All right, I pick you.
You can't pick me. I'm a captain.
No one had ever stood up to me like that before. I respected him from there on out.
That's a great story, Grandpa. I didn't like it.
None of my grandchildren had ever disliked one of my stories before. From then on, he was my favorite.
Well, I don't like that story, Great-Grandpa.
Future old people are wizards.
To order, brethren, to receive the most worshipful, the Grand Master.
Self-evident, Brother Franklin, all men are created equal.
Indeed, Brother Washington. All Freemasons meet as equals, and we have an opportunity to create a nation in the very essence of Masonic morality. It would be wonderfully symbolic, don't you think?
You'll be wanting to put the all-seeing eye on our banknotes next.
Trying to scrape up a down payment for a little fixer-upper in your neighborhood? Take a look at my next guest. There's a report around Wall Street that this is what he has in mind. This is Donald Trump, 33 years old. And some people think that he wants to buy the World Trade Center, the 110-story Manhattan skyscraper that anyone can pick up if they've got the coins. Donald Trump, as I say, is just 33 years old. He took his father's rather modest by current standards real estate empire in Brooklyn and expanded it considerably. He now has an apartment for sale in a new Trump building called the Trump Tower, going up on 5th Avenue. There it is. You can buy this apartment, one floor of it, one whole floor of that building, that is, $11 million altogether.
There's really no path to the presidency for Donald Trump without the state of Florida, and that's why Clinton and Trump have been spending so many days.
Introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year.
I accept your nomination.
I accept your nomination.
He has always been in full attack mode.
Grab them by the...
People in the Trump campaign just over the moon tonight. If she can't win Pennsylvania and Michigan, we have a problem. It is possible that Donald Trump might win the presidency.
Just call me Lucifer, 'cause I'm in need of some restraint.
One of the things that's most important, and John has been talking about this quite a bit, is not just southern Florida, which tends to be Democratic, especially in the southeast, or north.
People, I'm standing here at the epicenter of a political earthquake. They said it couldn't be done. They said he didn't have a chance. But it's happened. Donald J. Trump will be the 45th President of the United States. Reporting live from the New York Hilton, this is Avery Brown.
I'm no expert in weapons. We have somebody here who is an expert on weapons. I would now like to call Justin Hammer, our current primary weapons contractor.
Let the record reflect that I observed Mr. Hammer entering the chamber, and I am wondering if and when any actual expert will also be in attendance.
Absolutely. I'm no expert. I defer to you, Anthony. You're the wonder boy. Senator, if I may well not be an expert, but you know who was the expert? Your dad, Howard Stark. Really a father to us all, and to the military-industrial age.
To live in peace and security.
Two states living side by side in peace and security. True security for all Israelis. We will also pursue peace between Israel and Lebanon.
In peace and security.
Israel and Syria.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. I will do what I must.
You will try.
Peace and security.
And a broader peace between Israel and its many neighbors. Must decide whether we are serious about peace and security. To recognize Israel's legitimacy and its right to exist in peace and security.
But let's just be clear, he was no flower child. He was a lion. We all know why we're here. In the last 6 months, Anthony Stark has created a sword with untold possibilities. And yet he insists it's a shield. He asks us to trust him as we cower behind it. I wish I were comforted, Anthony. I really do. I'd love to leave my door unlocked when I leave the house.
Mr. President, Mr. General Secretary, distinguished delegates, half a world away from this place of peace, the firing, the killing, the bloodshed in two merciless conflicts have for the first time in recent memory diminished after adding terrible new names to the roll call of human horror. Names such as Halabja, Medushar, Inshar, and Spinbuldak. There is today hope of peace in the Persian Gulf and Afghanistan. So too in the highlands and coastal cities of southern Africa, places of civil war, places of occupation by foreign troops. Talk of peace is heard.
Okay. Who is the god of Freemasonry? Did Albert Pike, one of the greatest Freemasons of all time, tell us who the Masons worship? Most of you know this, but then when it comes to the support of Israel and Netanyahu, they just say, oh, well, that's okay if he is, you know, it's no big deal. No, there's no compromise. They worship what they worship. Let's ask Albert Pike about this, shall we? Okay, Albert Pike is considered to be one of the greatest Freemasons in history. In fact, there is a very large statue of him standing in Washington, D.C. Portraits of Pike can be found hanging in many Masonic lodges. He's one of the most influential leaders that Freemasonry ever had. Albert Pike published a book called Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry in 1871. In this book, Albert Pike reveals who the god of Freemasonry really and truly is. Now, this is from that book, Morals and Dogma. Okay? I'm going to read you these 4 paragraphs. And, again, this is what everyone appreciates what he's doing over there. This is the guy that everyone appreciates. And Christians too. So, and it's and a lot of you Christians out there support this guy and support Israel. I mean, oh yeah, because it's Israel, right? It don't matter if this guy's a 33rd degree Freemason. It don't matter what he worships. No, you can't compromise. If you're going to expose it, expose it.
Hey guys, this is the Militant Prophecy channel, and I wanted to make a quick video about an issue that I think got past a lot of truthers. A lot of truthers did not pay a whole lot of attention to this, and that issue is that Trump's pastor growing up was a 33 degree Mason. And this man's name is Norman Vincent Peale, and he was actually a well-known quote-unquote pastor, but he was also the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite Masonry in New York. He grew up a Methodist at first, but then he became part of the Reformed Church in America. Now, Norman Vincent Peale had a big influence because he was also a personal friend of President Richard Nixon. And then when Trump was growing up, Trump actually attended his church. And it's very clear that this man had a huge impact on Trump's spirituality. As a matter of fact, whenever Trump is asked about him, he just gushes over Norman Vincent Peale. And if you remember the famous interview where Trump is plainly asked, do you ask God for forgiveness? Are you a Christian? And what Trump does is he just refers to Norman Vincent Peale. I mean, he just gushes over Norman Vincent Peale and just talks about how he enjoyed his preaching growing up and how much he just had a huge impact on his life. And then he's just asked plainly, have you ever asked God for forgiveness? And Trump says, well, I don't do that. I don't, ask for forgiveness. I just try to just correct something if I just try to do better every day and just try to do good every single day. So clearly you can see where Trump's spirituality is at, because he was heavily influenced by Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking. And basically what this involves is just the name it and claim it. If you can just think about it in your mind and you can visualize it in your mind, then you can achieve it. It doesn't focus anything on God, but just having faith in yourself and having faith in your own abilities. So it just takes the entire positive thinking, name it and claim it, visualize it in your mind. Why it's so wrong is that it's anti-biblical, because it doesn't teach you to have faith in God. It teaches you to have faith in yourself and your own abilities. And of course, this makes sense, because when it comes to, Trump's arrogance, when it comes to him never fessing up to doing anything wrong, according to him, he's never really done anything wrong. He doesn't have to ask God for forgiveness for anything, because, he's never done anything wrong. He's never sinned. So obviously that takes away from the major doctrine of Christianity, which is that we are all sinners. There is no one righteous, no, not one. We've all committed sin. We've all fallen short of the glory of God. Therefore, we have to go to God. We need a Savior. But this positive thinking theology, this name it and claim it, visualize it in your mind, all it does is just puffs up your own ego and your own pride. And of course, it makes sense why this man has such a huge influence on Trump, because that is where he's coming from. That is what he was taught growing up. And whenever Trump is asked about his Christianity, he keeps bringing this man up, a 33-degree Mason, false prophet.
Of you missed your prom, sporting events, and celebration with your friends, but you were quick to find new ways to stay connected and active while remaining focused on finishing your education. You proved to the entire world that you can set your mind to something important, push through and succeed, showing all of us that you, our next generation, already possess the
Now, this shyster, Norman Vincent Peale, he was heavily criticized by other theologians, other pastors, and even other psychiatrists. and psychologist because of just the way he wrote his books. One of the major criticisms of The Power of Positive Thinking is that the book is full of anecdotes that are hard to substantiate. So almost all of the experts and many of the testimonials that Peele quotes as supporting his philosophy are unnamed, unsourced, and unknown. So, for example, in his book, he will say something like, a famous psychologist said this and this, or a practicing physician once said this and this, but none of that can be substantiated. So he's called out for poor references, poor quotes. He's criticized by other pastors, theologians, and even other psychiatrists. But yet, this man has a huge influence on our president. Even Peele's own father had a very interesting quote in his book, Spirits in Rebellion, and it's on page 391. And he says, he tells his son, you have evolved a new Christian emphasis out of a composite of science of the mind, metaphysics, Christian science, medical and psychological practice, Baptist evangelism, Methodist witnessing, and solid Dutch Reformed Calvinism. So his dad even admits that he takes a little bit of false doctrine here, a little bit of false doctrine there, a little bit of metaphysics, a little bit of New Age spirituality, a little bit of psychology, and just kind of mixes it up and just puts it into a big pot of, false prophet stew for, people to consume. And I guess people really eat this stuff up. But when it comes to the positive thinking, the positive only preacher, the preacher that won't preach against sin, the preacher that won't preach preach on hell. It reminds you of, this type of preacher today, like the Joel Osteens of the world, the positive only preachers, the preachers that won't preach against God, that won't preach about God's wrath, they won't preach about sin, they won't preach about anything bad. It's just positive, positive, positive. And as they're raking in the dough, and him and his creepy looking wife and his creepy looking self, I guess just the strange part about it is that the harder they smile, the creepier they look. But nonetheless, people do eat this stuff up. But that's just a review on Trump's pastor.
For the first time, the differences between East and West, fundamental differences over important moral questions dealing with the worth of the individual and whether governments shall control people or people control governments. For the first time, these differences have shown signs of easing.
Like you mentioned, the Vatican is actually releasing those findings right now. We just started a few minutes ago. But David Grush, he told News Nation special correspondent Ross Coulthart the Vatican was in possession of a UFO aircraft from 1933. Do we have time to listen to that, guys? Yeah, here it is.
1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy. They recovered a partially intact vehicle. The Italian government moved it to a secure air base in Italy for the rest of kind of the fascist regime until 1944, 1945. And, the Pope Pius XII back-channeled that.
So the Vatican was involved?
Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it.
So let me be very clear about this. You're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet?
Certainly.
But this ain't Canada. We live in a world of grave threats that Mr. Stark will not always be able to foresee. Thank you. God bless Iron Man. God bless America.
That is well said, Mr. Hammer.
Intelligence suggests that the devices seen in these photos are in fact attempts at making manned copies of Mr. Stark's suit. This has been corroborated by our allies and local intelligence on the ground, indicating that these suits are quite possibly at this moment operational.
Hold on a second, buddy.
Let me see. Something here. Oh, boy, I'm good. I come into your screens.
I need him. Time for a little transparency.
Now let's see what's really going on.
What is he doing?
If you'll direct your attention to said screens, I believe that's North Korea.
Turn that off.
The results of that morning in Geneva are seen in peace conferences now underway around the world on regional conflicts. and in the work of the UN here in New York, as well as in Geneva. But Mr. Secretary General, history teaches caution. Indeed, that very building in Geneva, where important negotiations have taken place, the Geneva Accords on Afghanistan, the Iran-Iraq negotiations, for example, we see it today as stone-like testimony to a failed dream of peace in another time.
This is from Morals and Dogma. Quote, "That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is a God that one adores without superstition. To you, sovereign grand inspectors general of the 33rd degree, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees." See, below the 30th degree, you're just left in the dark. Okay? The Masonic religion should be, by all of us, initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the, here it comes, Luciferian doctrine. If Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, the God of the Christians, whose deeds prove his cruelty, perfidy, and hatred of man, barbarism, and repulsion for science, would Adonai and his priests culminate him? Yes, Lucifer is God. And look at this. Unfortunately, Adonai is also God. So Netanyahu agrees with this. After all, he is a 33rd degree Freemason. For the eternal law is that there is no light without shade, no beauty without ugliness, no white without black, for the Absolute can only exist as two gods. Darkness being necessary to light, to serve as its foil, as the pedestal is necessary to the statue.
Take it off.
Iran. No grave immediate threat here. Is that Justin Hammer?
Right leg up.
How did Hammer get in the game?
Arm up.
Justin, you're on TV. Focus up.
Okay, let's be a left switch. Left is going to turn to the right.
The overlords are a superior intelligence.
Pretty much most polite alien invasion story that you will ever witness.
They tell everyone to stay calm.
We have come to help mankind.
We're not conquerors. We're enablers.
And then they explain that they're going to create a utopia.
They sort out our wars, they cure our diseases. We no longer have to fend for ourselves. Everything is just kind of perfect.
Israel's economic and military strength allows us to protect ourselves, but it also allows us something else. To strive for peace with the entire Arab world and with our closest neighbors, the Palestinians. An agreement with the Palestinians based on the two states for two people is the right thing for Israel's security, for Israel's economy, and for the future of our children.
What I've seen, not just in the Middle East, but also in the world and in life, is that when the forces of good are winning, the forces of evil will try to stop them, and that's really what I believe the terrorist attack was meant to do. I mean, Israel's economy was rocking in terms of all the different growth. It was a very attractive partner to a lot of people in the region. The progress between Saudi Arabia and Israel was progressing incredibly well. And I do think that poses a big threat to the forces of evil. If you have the Abraham Accords continuing and everyone coming together, that's something that obviously people will want to stop. So the attacks were absolutely vicious, terrible, that occurred, and that's really what was meant to be. So still a lot of possibilities for progress and positivity, but right now, obviously, this is a very important moment to see what's going to happen. In light of the attack, the Abraham Accords are more important than ever. Clearly, this is one of the hardest problem sets that's existed probably in geopolitics, but the end state has to look something like this, and it has to have two elements. Number one, Israel has to have the security to not be threatened by its neighbors and to be able to protect its citizens. That is absolutely crucial, is non-negotiable, and I do think a lot of the world agrees that that's something that should exist. The second element is that the Palestinian people have to have the opportunity to live a better life. And I think that if you go through the element, it's not just saying let's create a state, it has to be a state that can function and thrive, because if you don't create that, then the people will, again, find ways to blame other people instead of the leadership that's putting it there.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, a little too amazing.
The idea of a utopia is a little bit disconcerting.
There are no wars anywhere on the entire planet. They've given us the tools to cure our most terrible diseases. It's not like they're controlling us here.
Is that the end of your fairy tale?
Everybody runs by the same rules. Everybody is polite and nice and looks reasonably similar.
Without struggle, there's not a lot of grit in the oyster.
We get peace, we get security, we get harmony, but we lose a lot of cultural identity.
Hey guys, Gons here with another video for the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. I am recording this literally minutes after Prime Minister Netanyahu made his speech in front of the US Congress and the House, and I get a really uneasy feeling about it, despite the fact that everything he said was pretty straightforward and agreeable in terms of a geopolitical front. And just as a starter for this video, and it sort of ties into everything that I'm going to talk about here, there are lots of internet sites that report Netanyahu to be a self-admitted Freemason through a 1994 Israeli publication called Shishi. If anyone can vet that, let me know, because that would really explain a lot. But for this video, I want to talk about the late Leonard Nimoy, or Mr. Spock. And I'm sure you've heard that Leonard Nimoy just passed away. He was the star on the hit 60s TV show Star Trek. He passed away at the age of 83 due to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And a lot of folks are bringing up the Vulcan symbol that the character Spock made so famous. But what does this symbol actually represent? Well, according to Nimoy, in an interview he did for the National Yiddish Book Center in 2013, the symbol has Jewish roots. Here's a short clip of Nimoy describing how he came about this symbol.
So I'm with my father and my grandfather and my brother, sitting in the bench seats. Women were upstairs. 5 or 6 guys get up on the bima on the stage, and they're facing the congregation. They get their talit over their heads, and they start this chanting. I think it's called duchening. And my father said to me, "Don't look." So everybody's got their eyes covered with their hands, or they've got their talit down over their faces, or turned away, turned their back to these guys. And I hear this strange sound coming from them. They're not singers. They were shouters. And dissonant. It was all discordant. And they were doing like that kind of wailing, and all discordant, not together, not in unison. And then the leader would shout out, "Yevorechecho!" And the rest of them would respond, "Yevorechecho, Yishmerecho!" It was chilling. You know? Whoa, something major is happening here. So I peeked, and I saw them with their hands stuck out from beneath their talit like this towards the congregation. I thought, wow. Something really got hold of me. I thought, I had no idea what was going on, but the sound of it and the look of it was magical. This is the shape of the letter Shin, Hebrew alphabet Shin. Very interesting letter in the language. It's the first letter in the word Shaddai, the first letter in the word Shalom, first letter in the word Shekhinah, which is the name of the feminine aspect of God, who supposedly was created to live amongst humans, the Shekhinah.
So there you go. Now, in doing a little bit of digging into the symbol myself, I thought I'd make a few comments regarding it and the connection it has to Hollywood and Star Trek, and even the occult and the Illuminati or the Elite Order, who take their directions from fallen spirits, which will make their appearance as well in this short little video. So, as he described, the hand symbol represents the Hebrew letter Shin. According to Kabbalistic sources, there are 2 sides to the Shin. The right side, where the Shin possesses 3 heads and represents this world, and the left side, which possessed 4 heads and represents the world to come. Each of the 3 prongs of the shin represents different dimensions of the human being, one being the Kesser, will and pleasure, the second being intellect, and the third being emotion. And each of these have their own paths, and not surprisingly, there are several more layers of hidden meaning, of which isn't really that important for this video, but I'll leave some links where you can check them out for yourself. Now, the ritual that Leonard Nimoy was talking about there is a priestly blessing known as the Dukanin, which is performed by the Kohanims, who are the Jewish priests thought to be the descendants of Aaron, the Most High, brother of Moses, and according to Jewish tradition have been divinely chosen to work in the Jewish temple and assist others in serving God. Here is an image of the Kohanim performing this blessing. Does anything look familiar to you? If you studied occult symbolism at all, you know right away that this is very similar to the rock sign of the Illuminati that people have pointed out for a long time. Now, I don't really want to go down this rabbit trail right now, but I did want to point it out because it is very similar. Now, the real hidden spiritual deception behind this whole thing is found in the show Star Trek. The guy who created Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, has a very interesting past, getting mixed up with a group that called themselves the Council of Nine. Now, if you don't know about the Council of Nine, again, I'll leave some links in the description section, but in short, the Nine claim to be the Ennead, or the 9 major gods of ancient Egypt, and the 9 principles of the universe. The story is long and complicated, but in short, it goes back to 1952 when the founder of the Round Table Foundation, a medical doctor named Andrija Puharich, who had been doing paranormal and psychic research for years, brought in an Indian mystic named Dr. D.G. Vinod, who began to channel the 9. The history that follows is fascinating to look at, and many prominent people in culture have crossed paths with Puharich and his channelers, one of which was a young Israeli named Uri Geller. By the time Puharich set up Lab 9 in New York, he was backed by multi-millionaire businessmen, European nobility, scientists from Stanford Research Institute, and prominent political figures. And so again, one of the folks influenced by this Council of 9, these spiritual beings that were being channeled, is Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. And in fact, if you take a look at the number 9, you'll see it run through various elements of Star Trek throughout its various incarnations. But furthermore, the number 9 in general has been displayed throughout many Hollywood films, as seen here. But let's get down to the Vulcan himself. Spock was a hybrid, half human, half alien. But if we reach further back into history, we find that the Vulcan was the god of fire, where we get the word volcano. Of course, we should immediately notice the connection with Lucifer, the morning star, or Prometheus, the light bearer. He was also the god of metalworking and the forge, with the medieval alchemist Paracelsus declaring Vulcan as the god of alchemy, which might have something to do with Azazel, the Watcher, in the Book of Enoch, who taught mankind to make weapons. Now, this is interesting to consider because another name for Vulcan is Tubal-Cain. In Genesis 4:22, we read, "And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every art here in brass and iron." And so how did Tubal-Cain learn that stuff? Perhaps he was taught this by Azazel the Watcher, who taught mankind all the things of making weapons and of warfare. So if you look at the Gill's exposition of the entire Bible, here's what it states on a commentary for Genesis 4:22, quote, "And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, thought by many to be the same with Vulcan, his name and business agreeing, for the names are near in sound. Tubal-Cain may easily pass into Vulcan, and who with the heathens was the god of the smiths, and the maker of Jupiter's thunderbolts, as this was an artificer of iron and brass. As follows, his name is compounded of 2 words, the latter of which was no doubt put into the name in memory of Cain, his great ancestor, and former Josephus reads Theobald, and says of him that he exceeded all in strength, and had great skill in military affairs." Now, all this comes full circle when we read Manly P. Hall in his book The Lost Keys of Freemasonry, or The Secrets of Hiram Abiff, this quote, "When the Mason learns that the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mastery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he may step onward and upward, he must prove his ability to properly apply energy. He must follow in the footsteps of his forefather Tubal-Cain, who with the mighty strength of the war god hammered his sword into a plowshare." So, in conclusion, the bottom line is that the Vulcan symbol that everyone loves and enjoys has deep occult roots in not just mystical Hebraic tradition, but also the Illuminati and the occult and the Masons. And so the show Star Trek itself was wrought with channeled influences from the so-called Council of Nine, which I forgot to mention earlier that some folks have suggested that this whole thing with the Council of Nine was a CIA mind control operation, which it very well could have been. And so the mixture of aliens, pagan gods, channeled spirits, and the occult all come together in this one character of Spock, the hybrid Vulcan human, who was played by the late Leonard Nimoy.
We already know that modern-day Israel, at least in an earthly sense, had a lot to do with the efforts of the Rothschilds. Some more symbolism that gives that away can be found in the Israeli Supreme Court. The Israeli Supreme Court was funded by the Rothschilds on the condition that they would choose the plot of land, would use their own architect, and that the price of its construction would never be made public. Built in 1992 in Jerusalem, it sits next to the Knesset, which is the main political building in Israel. Also funded by the Rothschilds, the Knesset is the legislative branch of the Israeli government, where laws are enacted and heads of state are elected. Here's the picture of the Supreme Court. This painting is at the entrance to the building and depicts the Rothschilds planning its design along with Shimon Peres and Isaac Rabin. A journey through the Supreme Court esoterically represents a path towards illumination. The ultimate goal of the journey is to reach this pyramid, which represents the most holy place in the building. Each side of the pyramid has a circular hole at the top representing the all-seeing eye. Let's do a picture walkthrough along this so-called path of illumination from the beginning, and do some symbol spotting along the way. Firstly, the person who enters the Supreme Court finds himself in a dark area in front of a stairway leading to a source of light at the other end. By climbing these stairs, the visitor gradually moves away from the darkness towards illumination. There are exactly 3 sets of 10 steps equaling 30 overall. These represent the first 30 degrees of Freemasonry. Since there are 33 degrees to Freemasonry overall, we'll discover where the remaining 3 are later. You'll notice that the right side of the wall is made from rough old rocks, reminiscent of ancient Jerusalem walls, while the left is smooth and modern. This represents the timeless nature of the occult teachings that have been transmitted from ancient Babylon to today, and is a repeated theme throughout the Supreme Court. Having climbed the steps, the visitor finds that he is on a high point with a great view over the rooftops of Jerusalem. We know that Satan wants to try and claim the high points in a region because he wants to be the most high, so no further explanation is required here. Embedded on the floor is a line which guides the traveller to the entrance of the library, which is placed right underneath the Great Pyramid. This is the path you walk to the holiest place, and of course the library itself represents knowledge. This picture is taken from the 2nd floor of that library. The library is actually divided into 3 levels, symbolically representing the final 3 degrees of Freemasonry. The first level is reserved for lawyers only, the second is reserved for judges only, and the books on the 3rd level can only be read by retired judges. This represents the movement through the degrees, acquiring higher and higher knowledge. The library functions like all occult hierarchies, where some information is the exclusive privilege of a select few. These are the 3 levels of the library. Right above the 3rd level, representing the final degree of Freemasonry, there is this view of the pyramid. This is where the Freemasonry ends and the elite Illuminati begins. Directly beneath the apex of the pyramid is this geometric floor pattern, with a crystal embedded in the floor at the center. There are 6 squares representing the number of man, and each square of course has 4 sides, which is the number that represents the world. The crystal in the center lies directly under the apex of the pyramid. This is similar to the sun symbol embedded at the center of the Capitol crypt in Washington, D.C. The entrances to the courtrooms themselves look like this. They are said to resemble ancient Jewish tombs. Apparently in some Jewish tombs there were holes where the soul was supposed to leave. They have retained these holes in the courtrooms, perhaps to allow spirits to come and go in a similar manner. Again, notice the contrast between the old and the new here. The prison cells, the courtroom, and the judge's quarters are placed one on top of the other, symbolizing the tiered society as proposed by Plato and the Enlightenment thinkers. The ruling elite at the top, represented by the judge's quarters, the auxiliaries like the police and civil servants in the middle to enforce the decrees of those at the top, represented by the courtroom, and the massive ignorant prisoners below. This is one of the courtrooms. The judge is illuminated by a natural source of light at the far end, symbolically representing the light of the divine, guiding their wisdom. They retire to their quarters at the top tier to make a decision and then descend back to the courtroom below to bring their illuminating wisdom to the world. Now let's start making our way outside. No occult structure would be complete without the obligatory sexual symbols, and the steps outside the courtrooms provide this feature. Again, this needs little explanation. Once outside the building, we are then invited to visit the Dorothy Rothschild Grove. We find this plaque on the wall with the arrow. Alongside it, we also find this plaque, which also contains an all-seeing eye. Sorry about the quality of these, I couldn't find anything more clear-cut. When we follow the arrow, though, to the Dorothy Rothschild Grove, we find this monument, which is obviously an obelisk, an Ashtoreth pole. If we then go to the centre of the parking facilities from here, we find this shape on the ground. Now, some people have suggested that this represents a cross so that people can trample on it as they descend down the steps. I don't personally buy into this theory. To me, it just looks like a sun symbol. All these things, again, are just evidence of the Rothschilds' occult influence.
John 18:36. Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews, but now is my kingdom not from hence." Has these words changed? Are we now to support another kingdom or a country, regardless of what country or kingdom that is? Has this all of a sudden changed to my kingdom is of this world, and we are to fight for the kingdom? That we should be delivered to the Jews? The answer is no. It is still the same yesterday, today, and forever. This world is still this world today, as it was back in the time of John 18:36. So this would include the kingdom or the land of Israel.
The lack of creativity is damaging. There's no motivation to do anything in utopia. There's no germs, no hot dogs that are notoriously bad for you.
You know, those types of things are important.
Music and culture and art, it kind of disappears.
Make us healthy, make us sleepy, make us fat. But if you challenge them, they come down like a fist.
Childhood End doesn't have an optimistic view, doesn't have a pessimistic view. It's about reality, the reality of the universe.
What do they want?
I think the business of creating this kind of utopia is an attempt at sugaring the pill.
Who's the elephant?
Oh, shit! Oh, shit!
Wow. Yeah, I'd say most countries 5-10 years away. Hammer Industries 20.
I'd like to point out that test pilot survived.
I think we're done is the point that he's making. I don't think there's any reason I can...
Point is, you're welcome, I guess. Because I'm your nuclear deterrent. It's working. We're safe. America is secure. You want my property? You can't have it. But I did you a big favor. I have successfully privatized world peace.
The Palais des Nations was the headquarters of the League of Nations, an institution that was to symbolize an end to all war. And yet today, that institution and its noble purpose ended with the Second World War. Ended because the chance for peace was not seized in the 1930s by the nations of the world. Ended because humanity did not find the courage to isolate the aggressors, to reject schemes of government that serve the state, not the people. We're here today, Mr. Secretary General, determined that no such fate shall befall the United Nations. We're determined that the UN should succeed and serve the cause of peace for humankind.
Why are we being kept in the dark?
Just because the world appears to be perfect, there is still human feeling. It's okay to have questions.
Half the world thinks that you're their salvation. The other half wants to blow you out of the sky. The entire thing is summed up in that there is someone else pulling the strings here, and as much as you'd like to think that you have control, and that we allow you to think you have control, you don't.
It's supposed to be utopia.
You've got to tell them what's going on.
What more do you want? For now! I tried to play ball with these ass clowns.
F you, Mr. Stark. F you, buddy. We're adjourned. We're adjourned for the day.
Okay.
You've been a delight.
We sort out your economic crises, health care, put an end to wars. Then you will be ready for the really rather nasty news that I have to tell you.
Dress this up in as much hippy-dippy crap as you like. This is an invasion.
So, Mr. Secretary General, we realize that even in this time of hope, the chance of failure is real. But this knowledge does not discourage us. It spurs us on, for the stakes are high. Do we falter and fail now and bring down upon ourselves the just anger of future generations? Or do we continue the work of the founders of this institution and see to it that at last freedom is enshrined and humanity knows war no longer?
What I've seen, not just in the Middle East, but also in the world and in life, is that when the forces of good are winning, the forces of evil will try to stop them, and that's really what I believe the terrorist attack was meant to do. I mean, Israel's economy was rocking in terms of all the different growth. It was a very attractive partner to a lot of people in the region. The progress between Saudi Arabia and Israel was progressing incredibly well. And I do think that poses a big threat to the forces of evil.
For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape.
The shooting of the 12 police officers in Dallas, Texas, has shaken the soul of our nation. Just a few weeks ago, I met with many of the men and women in the Dallas police force during my visit to Texas. They're not just police officers. They're mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sons and daughters. And they're all on my mind today. They're on everybody's mind. A brutal attack on our police force is an attack on our country and an attack on our families. We must stand in solidarity with law enforcement, which we must remember is the force between civilization and total chaos. Every American has the right to live in safety and peace. The deaths of Alton Sterling in Louisiana and Philando Castile in Minnesota also make clear how much more work we have to do to make every American feel that their safety is protected. Too many Americans are living in terrible poverty and violence. We need jobs, and we're going to produce those jobs. Racial divisions have gotten worse, not better. Too many headlines flash across our screens every day about the rising crime and rising death tolls in our cities. Now is the time for prayers, love, unity, and leadership. Our children deserve a better future than what we're making them live through today.
Well, if you have the Abraham Accords continuing and everyone coming together, that's something that obviously people will want to stop. So the attacks were absolutely vicious, terrible, that occurred, and that's really what was meant to be. So still a lot of possibilities for progress and positivity, but right now, obviously, this is a very important moment to see what's going to happen. In light of the attack, the Abraham Accords are more important than ever. Clearly, this is one of the hardest problem sets that's existed probably in geopolitics, but the end state has to look something like this, and it has to have two elements. Number one, Israel has to have the security to not be threatened by its neighbors and to be able to protect its citizens. That is absolutely crucial, is non-negotiable, and I do think a lot of the world agrees that that's something that should exist. The second element is that the Palestinian people have to have the opportunity to live a better life. And I think that if you go through the element, it's not just saying let's create a state, it has to be a state that can function and thrive, because if you don't create that, then the people will, again, find ways to blame other people instead of the leadership that's putting it there.
Jared Kushner, his big pet project was that 666 Fifth Avenue, that big office tower. He's going to tear it down, build something new, and he had to do a deal basically that gave it away.
Right, and so to give viewers a little background, I mean, this is an iconic building in New York. You know, in a city of iconic buildings, I mean, this is one that people walk along or walk past on Fifth Avenue. There's retail in the bottom, and then it's notably, you know, it's a nice skyscraper and a name that, or an address that is as memorable, we should say. They had big plans for it. At one point, they were talking about demolishing it and doubling it in size. And as you say, this was Jared Kushner's really ambitious project. It did not go the way that they thought it would. They were partnered with Vornado, and now to the rescue, and this to me is what's really notable, to the rescue and probably to the profit of its investors is Brookfield.
Manichaeans and the Templars have admitted, as the only logical metaphysical conception, the system of the divine principles fighting eternally, and one cannot believe the one interior in power to the other. So, basically, the Luciferian doctrine says the same thing the Christians do, they just twist it, okay? If you're going to love Lucifer, you can't love Yahweh, alright? You know, that's what they believe. That's basically what it's saying. Thus, the doctrine of Satanism is heresy. And the true and pure philosophic religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai. See, the doctrine of Satanism is a heresy. But the doctrine of Satanism, obviously, because of what he is saying here, he's basically calling Yahweh Satan. Listen to this again. And the true and pure philosophic religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light, God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai. There you go. There's your answer. Adonai is Satan, according to Benjamin Netanyahu of the 33rd Degree Freemasons and Albert Pike.
Yeah, Brookfield stepped into it and basically said, we'll take it for a 99-year lease.
Right. That's how we will find new pathways to peace and security. That is the work that we must do.
In peace and security. Peace and security and coexistence.
A movement towards peace. If we have this triangle, economy, security, and peace, then peace can succeed.
Anything in the occult, all you have to do is compare it to the Bible. You're going to find out just about everything in the occult was either reversed or perverted from the Holy Scriptures. In the end, you're going to find out that Lucifer has never had an original idea yet.
Modern-day popularization of occultism, which has been one of the main objectives of the Theosophical Society. In her book, The Key to Theosophy, Blavatsky stated that one of the primary means of building a global brotherhood of man would be, quote, to encourage the study of those laws least understood by modern people, the so-called occult sciences. The occult sciences, stated Blavatsky, help develop and cultivate, quote, the hidden powers latent in man, thus giving him tremendous advantages over more ignorant mortals. The occult sciences include magic, mediumship or channeling, hypnosis, alchemy, and astrology, all of which are very popular in the New Age.
You have multiple books in here on astrology, telepathy, and just various books on magic.
The New Age Almanac notes the success of Blavatsky's endeavor to spread occultism in the West. Quote, several hundred new occult organizations can be traced directly to the Theosophical Society. For example, drawing upon the esoteric work initiated by Theosophy, ritual magicians have attempted to attain the mastery of the world through occult means, in a measure only hinted at in Theosophical circles. Theosophy also nurtured a reborn astrology. Beginning with minuscule astrological groups in the late 19th century, astrology made an astounding comeback to become the most pervasive popular occult practice in the latter part of the 20th century. Like the New Age movement, the primary aim of occultism is the pursuit of the expansion or evolution of consciousness and the attainment of Christhood through spiritual initiation. Occultist Rudolf Steiner is a perfect example of this idea, as a collection of his lectures is entitled The Evolution of Consciousness, as revealed through initiation knowledge. Aleister Crowley, arguably the most notorious occultist and Satanist of all time, is an even more profound example of the occult roots of the New Age. Author Nicholas Campion sums up Crowley's New Age lineage and his influence in the development of New Age thought. Quote, there were two important currents of New Age prophecy in the 20th century West until the 1950s. One was embedded in the Theosophical and esoteric tradition, promoted by Alice Bailey, Rudolf Steiner, and Carl Jung. The other was magical, promoted by Aleister Crowley, and emphasized paganism and decadence. Crowley's vision of a new global religion, his understanding of all great prophets as manifestations of a single essence, and his desire to restore the West by teaching the East to the West mark him out as an heir to Blavatsky. Crowley's esotericism was by and large unoriginal. However, his most important contribution to New Age thought was to provide a statement of universal rights. Crowley's philosophy was fundamentally New Age. He propounded New Age ideas such as the following, quote, happiness lies within oneself. Every man and every woman is a star, and the infinite unity is our refuge. Since if our consciousness be in that unity, we shall care nothing for the friction of its component parts, and our light is the inmost point of illuminated consciousness. He believed that through meditation, quote, the consciousness of the many may be melted to that of the one, leading to the, quote, expansion of consciousness to that of the infinite, which, as I previously cited, was exactly how Alice Bailey defined the New Age initiation process. This is a clear sign that occultism, Satanism, and the New Age movement are part of the same spiritual phenomenon.
And I love what you said about the evolution of the next consciousness.
What's evolving is consciousness. Consciousness is the thing that's evolving, and it expands in every way it can.
We are also granted the gift of experiencing an expansion within our own consciousness.
Through the expansion of consciousness.
We are moving away from this separation consciousness and moving into unity, oneness consciousness.
We all know that Obama visited Israel, and a lot of people are claiming Obama's the Antichrist, and you know, Israel, we gotta support Israel, we gotta do this for Israel, we gotta, you know, Christians unite for Israel. And folks, when are you gonna get it? When are you going to understand that both these sides are working for the same Luciferian agenda? It don't matter who governs who. It does not matter. We shouldn't even be concerned with the kingdoms of this world.
The solar flares, the vibrational frequency is actually awakening all of us, and we're awakening as one.
Because you are connected in consciousness to everybody.
We need to come together in mutual acknowledgement that we're all the same consciousness having different experiences. The change consciousness is about oneness, unity of everything.
Alice Bailey made it very clear that occultism was the source for her view of the Christ, and she believed that this New Age occult Christ would soon overthrow the Jesus of traditional Christianity. Quote, "It can be expected that the Orthodox Christian will at first reject the theories about the Christ which occultism presents. At the same time, this same Orthodox Christian will find it increasingly difficult to induce the intelligent masses of people to accept the impossible deity and the feeble Christ which historical Christianity has endorsed. Occultism presents a Christ who is present and living, who is known to those who follow him, who is a strong and able executive and not a sweet and sentimental sufferer, who has never left us, but who has worked for 2,000 years through the medium of his disciples, the inspired men and women of all faiths, all religions, and all religious persuasions, who sees divinity in them all, and who comprehends the techniques of the evolutionary development of the human consciousness. These ideas the intelligent public can and will accept. Then the picture of a Christ demanding a unique position to the exclusion of all other sons of God will fade out in the wonder of the true apostolic succession, in which many sons of God, on different rays, of differing nationalities and with varying missions, are to be seen historically leading humanity along the path of divine unfoldment and nearer to God, the source. Occult or esoteric means that which is hidden or secret, and refers to knowledge only known to the initiated. Occult teachings are usually associated with the idea of spiritual awakening, which is a very popular idea in the New Age. One becomes awakened when they have learned a hidden truth about the world and themselves, and thus they become initiated into the secrets or mysteries of the ages.
We're moving into this new age of Aquarius, and it's going to be an awakening for everyone again.
It's sort of an awakening that happens in consciousness.
And I think that there is more of an awakening.
This great awakening is just about to take place.
It is the awakening of the Christ principle in humanity.
You're expanding.
I was expanding in more of a positive direction.
You think I'm taking it a bit far?
Please don't ask me questions like that, Brother Franklin. You know I cannot tell a lie.
Oh, come on, Brother Washington. Everybody lies occasionally, surely, especially politicians.
Not me. Not even so much as an alternative fact.
We must all be aware of fake news.
The people must be free to think what they like as well. We can have no thought police in our new society. The foundation stone of our new nation built on all those principles that we hold dear.
The plans for our new capital city already have a very Masonic feel to them, yeah.
Candidate for initiation into the order, I'm giving him a little introduction into some of our mysteries. These two gentlemen are founding an entire nation built on our principles.
We have great promises for our new nation. You know, I wonder if other presidents after me will also be Freemasons.
Many will be. And Freemasonry will become embedded in the American culture. And the eye will appear on the banknotes.
Oh, God.
These principles will be honored with a gift from your French brethren. A gift that will be a welcoming beacon to the poor and oppressed.
This is the statue we are giving you.
It's a bit small, isn't it?
Oh, this is a maquette. The real thing is bigger. Much, much bigger.
America will produce a great many great Americans from many different walks of life and many different fields, and many will be Masons. Sportsmen, actors, writers, soldiers, filmmakers, businessmen, inventors, astronauts.
What on earth is an astronaut?
No, they're not.
I don't follow.
Well, they're not on Earth, they're in space. In fact, Brother Buzz Aldrin was the second man to walk upon the surface of the moon.
That's the best thing I've heard this evening.
What, that a Mason walked on the moon?
Man on the moon. Amazing. But don't forget the musicians. Do not forget the musicians.
Authoritarian and totalitarian regimes continue to suppress Freemasonry afraid of its strong heritage of liberty and equality.
It symbolizes the inevitability of your end.
The British Army had travelling lodges that moved with regiments. Freemasons have served their countries and communities with distinction.
Freemasons met across the Union and Confederate divide to celebrate their common rituals.
And today, Freemasonry remains an active part of military life in many countries.
Freemasonry has burned as a blazing fire through the last 3 centuries. The driving force behind the Royal Society was initiated into Freemasonry.
Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, father of Queen Victoria, and Prince Augustus, Duke of Sussex. The 2 princes brought their feuding Grand Lodges together and reconciled to be the United Grand Lodge of England.
Kings George IV, William IV, Edward VII, Edward VIII, and George VI were all Freemasons, as were 18 dukes and princes, including the Duke of Edinburgh.
This year, His Royal Highness Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, celebrates his 50th year as Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England.
His Royal Highness was proposed into Freemasonry by the then Grand Master, the Earl of Scarborough.
He was initiated into Royal Alpha Lodge number 16, an advocate for the craft all over the world, continuing 3 centuries of distinguished royal tradition at the very heart of English Freemasonry.
To order, brethren, to receive the most worshipful, the Grand Master.
As permanent master of these 3 lodges, I now call on my deputy masters.
Most worshipful Grand Master.
Most worshipful Grand Master. Most worshipful Grand Master.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I humbly ask you to complete the initiation of this worthy candidate for Freemasonry.
Adorn our ceremonies and forever remind us of our incomparable heritage, the birth of organized Freemasonry, stressing the deep and sincere loyalty and affection felt by the brethren of the United Grand Lodge of England for their Grand Master.
I had the pleasure of meeting 136 Grand Masters visiting from overseas at Freemasons Hall yesterday. Today, though, we are a meeting of more than 4,000 gathered from all around the world, from our own constitution and beyond. When the global Masonic family comes together to celebrate our past and renew our own pride and confidence in and enthusiasm for Freemasonry.
I hereby read the text of a letter sent today to Buckingham Palace. May it please your Majesty, we, the representatives of over 200,000 Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, most respectfully express our continuing loyalty to your Majesty's throne and person in this, the 66th year of your long and distinguished reign, of His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, as our much loved and greatly respected Grand Master. We humbly thank God for preserving our order and fervently pray His blessings on your Majesty, so that our loyal devotion to your Majesty may long continue. Given at the Royal Albert Hall this 31st day of October, Anno Domini 2017. Her Majesty has been pleased to reply in the following terms. The Queen has asked me to thank you for your kind letter of loyal greetings on behalf of the representatives of the Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, which are being celebrated on the 31st of October at the Royal Albert Hall. Her Majesty appreciated your thoughtfulness in writing as you did.
We leave the Royal Albert Hall even more proud of our ancient institution.
Worldwide, Freemasonry remains as important and relevant as ever. A global society of perhaps 6 million people.
As the globe embraced Freemasonry, enlightenment came.
I may not agree with what you say, but I shall defend to the death
your right to say it.
None is more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free.
Coat of arms of Donald Trump. What does it actually represent?
Well, this is rather interesting, actually. This is an arcane Scottish heraldic law providing evidence of Donald Trump's deep Anglophilia, I would say, and also touches upon the royal prerogative. There we have the double-headed eagle representing his Scottish Germanic heritage.
The Masonic Chip program uses modern police-approved techniques to create a child identification kit.
And we take fingerprints. We also provide them with a swab for getting a DNA swab. And we also provide them with imprint where they can get an imprint of the child's teeth. So not only does it provide DNA as well as a swab, but it is also a source if you were using tracking dogs to provide a scent for the child.
You may be surprised to see who we found using tricks to cover up their license plates.
Apparently, they're law enforcement.
You know, in Hollywood and in the industry and the stuff we do, there's a lot of like insider secrets to keeping your career going, and a lot of insider secrets to making things tick.
The kingdom of this world is going to be destroyed when that rock smashes the statue's feet, according to Daniel 2. During that press conference, and it was made clear to me, everyone was talking about, oh, how Obama lied to Netanyahu about this and that and this and that. Well, everyone's giving credit to Netanyahu because he's the prime minister of Israel and this and that and this and that. Well, the thing is we have believers that will go so far that do a really good job of pointing at the symbolic languages of the occult, which means hidden or mystery, and we know that their language to the world is in symbology. We all know about the Masonic handshake. We should know about the different images of the Masonic handshake. I've said before that it is well known or highly documented that Netanyahu is a 33rd degree Freemason. There's a lot of evidence that Obama is a 32 degree Prince Hall Freemason. And at the end of Netanyahu's opening address to Obama at the press conference on March the 20th, when he said, "Mr. President, I welcome you to Israel and I welcome you to Jerusalem." They shook hands. Okay? And I want you to look at this real carefully. Very carefully. Okay? Again, these are two individuals working for the same agenda. And I'm going to show you some other things regarding Ahmadinejad too. Here's a video from the White House channel. Obviously, you see Obama and Netanyahu here. And you see this right here? You see Netanyahu and Obama extending hands, and you see the thumb over the knuckle. Same thing with Obama, the thumb over the knuckle, and Netanyahu's hand extending over and around the last knuckle, right here. You can see that clear as day. Okay? Now, keep this in mind. Here's a list of 33rd degree Freemasons. I'm just going to go over a couple of them. Karl Marx. Hugo Chavez. The one that just died of lung cancer for what someone is saying supposedly cursed Israel. It's all Hegelian dialectic, folks. It's all a stage. It's all theater. As a matter of fact, you know, there's this whole book that somebody wrote that, like, every time something is said about Israel, the United States has some kind of nuclear, has some kind of disaster that happens to it or whatever. And we know that there's weather modification. We know that man is trying to play God. Hence, therefore, there's a lot of counterfeiting going on. Okay? Bear that in mind. A lot of deception going on these days. Kenneth Copeland's a Freemason. Walt Disney, Bob Dole, Ronald Reagan, Colin Powell, Shimon Peres, and look at what you have here. Benjamin Netanyahu, Vladimir Lenin, Benjamin Netanyahu, Karl Marx. Yeah, they're all in the same boat. So, and all these links will be posted below. Okay? Now, I want to take you here. I don't know if you can read all of this. I guess I'll post this below too. I don't know if you can read all of this, but this is from Albert Pike. He was born on December 29th, 1809. Died in 1891. In 1889, Albert Pike addressing the 23 Supreme Councils of the world on July 14th, 1889. This is what he says, quote, "To you, sovereign grand instructors general, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, the 31st, and 30th degrees. All other degrees below are just nothing but goyim, and they don't need to know what is repeated to the 32nd, 31st, and 30th. Obama criticizes opponents' Iraq votes. This was from December 28, 2007. By Jason Clayworth, registered staff writer. Quote, "One of their most famous members, and also a 32nd degree Prince All-Mason, became a U.S. presidential candidate for 2008. His name is Barack Hussein Obama." Okay? Written by Zenon Kwasiewicz. Prince Hall is the first black Masonic lodge in the U.S. named by its founder and master, who was the most famous black individual in the Boston area during the American Revolution and through the turn of the 19th century. Okay? So, and this is Barack Obama speaking at the Scottish Rite Masonic Center in Des Moines, Iowa on Thursday. Criticized other Democrat votes to authorize the war in Iraq. So, here we see Obama, 32 degree Prince All Freemason. This is what they were talking about. This Boston Globe from December 28, 2007. Barack Obama arrived for a speech at the Scottish Rite Masonic Center in Des Moines yesterday. And here you can see him getting ready to extend the hand. And you can see how the knuckle is getting ready to be positioned right above, between the first and second knuckle. Okay, the same thing that Netanyahu just did. Right there, you see the thumb. Right there. You see the hands covering over the last two knuckles. So, now hopefully that you got a good look at this. Now I want to take you to this. Here's the imagery. Members of Freemasonry always expose themselves among the other Freemasonry members. They have same signs of handshakes, arm shakes, colors of their clothes. These signs prove to the other members of Freemasons that they are their brother. The most popular definition of Freemasonry states that it is a unique system of morality, veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. When you meet any person, carefully observe his or her body signals. This is one of the handshakes. You see how I just showed you? This is the shibboleth, past grip of a fellow craft. Right here. I mean, it doesn't matter which member of a Mason does this, but the grip of the entered apprentice is made by pressing the thumb against the top of the first knuckle joint of the fellow Mason. The fellow Mason also presses his thumb against the first Mason's knuckle. So you see the hands here, the fingers. You see the thumb. Go back over here again. You can see the same exact thing right here. Alright? No difference. Here's another image of it. This is a little different. And here's another image of it. Here's a third image, which actually kind of resembles more of this right here. This third image right here. You see that? It's the same language. Here you can see Ahmadinejad. Freemasonic handshake. Larry King, 2007. Another handshake signal. Strong grips of the lion's paw right here. Okay. Here's the Pope. Here you can see Obama again. Extended Masonic handshake. Obama and Bob Schreifer. I mean, this stuff just doesn't go away, folks. And it does include any government leader, including Netanyahu. And there you see George Bush and Chinese Prime Minister right there. You can see how that matches more so this handshake right here. That one right here. There you can see the thumb. There's Jordan King Abdullah showing sign of Satan and plus red tie. So, again, need to remind you once more that this right here is symbolic language. They are telling you what they represent and who they worship. I will read it again. To you, sovereign grand instructors general, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, the 31st, and the 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates at the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. End quote. I'm going to take you to Matthew 4. This was the third temptation of the devil. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world. Of what world? This world. Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. And the glory of them. And saith unto him, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. John 18:36, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence. This is not anti-Semitic, folks, and I'm not cursing anybody. I'm just pointing out the obvious, okay? I'm pointing out the obvious. Satan tempted Jesus with all the kingdoms of the world. Of this world, this age, okay? It's the same age that we are living in. It's the same age, and here you have government leaders working for the same agenda as everybody else, wanting to fulfill a one-world government. The kingdoms of this world. I'll give you all the kingdoms of this world. But what did Jesus say? Get thee behind me, Satan. For thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. We're not to be serving Israel. We're not to be serving politics. We're not to be serving Netanyahu or any of it. We are supposed to be serving the one who says, my kingdom is not of this world.
This is the moment Japan's nuclear disaster began. A giant tsunami wave crashes into the Fukushima Daiichi power plant.
And we will protect you, that I can tell you, and we will say enough is enough.
Enough is enough, and we will continue to march and continue to fight and demonstrate until we do get justice.
Calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
There has been an awakening.
Mankind's first awakening, according to the occult, occurred in the Garden of Eden, when the serpent revealed a great mystery to Eve that God had kept hidden from her, that she could become like God if she partook of the tree of knowledge. This was the first initiation. By eating of the tree of knowledge, Eve was initiated into the mysteries. She discovered her true identity and became God. This has been the foundational teaching in the occult and mystery schools for centuries, that in the Garden of Eden, the serpent was the arbiter of mankind's initiation into godhood and imparted the ageless wisdom. This is what Madame Blavatsky meant when she stated that Satan, the serpent of Genesis, is the real creator and benefactor, the father of spiritual mankind, and that Satan can only be regarded in the light of a savior. Aleister Crowley similarly stated, "This serpent, Satan, is not the enemy of man, but he who made gods of our race, knowing good and evil. He bade know thyself and taught initiation." Alice Bailey also confirmed that the roots of initiation are found in the Garden of Eden and the serpent's temptation to eat of the tree of knowledge. Quote, "Initiation leads to the cave where the secret of good and evil is revealed." This explains how the ancient mysteries, or ageless wisdom, has retained the same core body of teachings through the centuries, because they have descended from the same spiritual father, the serpent. This is why the mystery schools, which are the ancient ancestor religion of today's New Age movement, worship the serpent as the bringer of divine wisdom. In Isis Unveiled, Madame Blavatsky confirmed that the serpent was the supreme god of the mystery schools. Quote, "The Hierophants, moreover, of Egypt as of Babylon, generally styled themselves the sons of the serpent god, or sons of the dragon, because in the mysteries, the serpent was the symbol of wisdom and immortality." Manly P. Hall, a 33rd degree Freemason and one of the most well-known experts on ancient and esoteric wisdom, also confirms the Christ-like importance of the serpent in the mystery schools. Quote, "The initiates of the mysteries were often referred to as serpents, and their wisdom was considered analogous to the divinely inspired power of the snake. Among nearly all these ancient peoples, the serpent was accepted as the symbol for wisdom or salvation. Notwithstanding statements to the contrary, the serpent is the symbol and prototype of the universal Savior, who redeems the world by giving creation the knowledge of itself and the realization of good and evil."
Ka! It's you! Yes, man cub. So nice to see you again. Oh, go away. Leave me alone. Let me look at you. You don't want me to look at you? Then you look at me. No, sir. I know what you're trying to do, Ka. You do? You don't trust me. No. Then there's nothing I can do to help. You want to help me? Certainly.
Okay. So let's dedicate this to General Kelly, the Border Patrol, and the ICE agents for doing such an incredible job. Right? This was written by Al Wilson a long time ago. And I thought of it having to do with our borders and people coming in. And we know what we're going to have. We're going to have problems. We have to very, very carefully vet. We have to be smart. We have to be vigilant. So here it is, the snake. It's called The Snake. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. "Poor thing," she cried, "I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you."
The accepted theory that the serpent is evil cannot be substantiated. It is the symbol of the reincarnation, which was common to many of the ancient mystery schools.
"Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and as soon as she arrived, she found that pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. "Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed that vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. "You're so beautiful," she cried. "But if I hadn't brought you in by now, oh heavens, you would have died." She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed him and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. "Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I have saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, heavens, why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Does that explain it, folks? Does that explain it?
Trust in me.
A future that Ernest Cline, the writer of the book, envisioned. I was very careful with Ernie collaborating with me every step of the way to be able to find the movie narrative inside this dense forest of Ernie's profound imagination.
The Oasis being the ultimate toy box with all the toys in the world, and then playing that with one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. It results in just amazing action and such a fun adventure.
Ernest Cline is such a visionary, and I think has seen the future before any of us possibly could even imagine it.